The past perfect in German, also known as the Plusquamperfekt, is a verb tense used for past actions that happened before something else in the past. It's recognized by the auxiliary verbs haben or sein, and in the tense, the verbs are accompanied by a main verb which takes a past participle form similar to the present perfect. But in the subject-verb agreement, only the auxiliary verb will be conjugated, taking form in the past tense. The past participle of the main verb remains the same no matter what the subject is. So the pattern for the past perfect tense is a subject, a conjugated auxiliary verb haben or sein in the past tense, and a past participle of the main verb. Ich hatte, ich war. Du hattest, du warst. Sie es hatte, sie es war. Wir hatten, wir waren. Ihr hattet, ihr wart. Sie hatten, sie waren. These are the conjugations that we will use for the German past perfect, along with a past participle of a main verb. Let's also not forget the difference between the verbs haben and sein, which have the same rules in the past perfect as in the present perfect. In my previous video, I discussed this topic, so I would advise watching the previous video. To make matters simple, I will also be using the same verbs for the same pattern that I used in the present perfect, so this way it's easier to follow. Let's use the verb lernen, which is a weak irregular verb. To put lernen in the past perfect, begin with the subject, provide the auxiliary verb that will match the subject depending on the type, and then use the past participle of lernen. Ich hatte gelernt. Du hattest gelernt. Sie es hatte gelernt. Wir hatten gelernt. Ihr hattet gelernt. Sie hatten gelernt. This is the pattern for the German past perfect. Now, let's use the irregular strong verb sehen. Ich hatte gesehen. Du hattest gesehen. Sie es hatte gesehen. Wir hatten gesehen. Ihr hattet gesehen. Sie hatten gesehen. A different verb is bringen, which is a mixed verb. Ich hatte gebracht. Du hattest gebracht. Sie es hatte gebracht. Wir hatten gebracht. Ihr hattet gebracht. Sie hatten gebracht. A different verb is verstehen, which has an inseparable prefix. Ich hatte verstanden. Du hattest verstanden. Sie es hatte verstanden. Wir hatten verstanden. Ihr hattet verstanden. Sie hatten verstanden. A different verb is anfangen, which has a separable prefix, and verbs with separable prefixes will keep their prefix attached to the past participle. Ich hatte angefangen. Du hattest angefangen. Sie es hatte angefangen. Wir hatten angefangen. Ihr hattet angefangen. Sie hatten angefangen. A different verb is sich freuen, which is a reflexive verb, and reflexive verbs in the past perfect will keep the reflexive pronoun after the auxiliary verb. Ich hatte mich gefreut. Du hattest dich gefreut. Sie es hatte sich gefreut. Wir hatten uns gefreut. Ihr hattet euch gefreut. Sie hatten sich gefreut. This is how the past perfect is formed in German, but it's important to understand when to use it. In my present perfect video, I showed the word order that the German perfect has, specifically modal verbs, the standard sentence pattern, yes or no questions, W questions, and subordinate clauses. Such concepts have rules that require a word order, but in the past perfect, the same rules apply as in the present perfect, so there is no point in covering them in this video. All of these things were shown in the previous video, so watching it before this one would be better. The past perfect is used when talking about two past events to show which one happened first. In German, the past perfect is common with conjunctions like bevor, nachdem, and sometimes without conjunctions in an implicit order. Let's have some examples with the auxiliary verb haben. Ich hatte schon gegessen, bevor ich das Haus verließ. Hatte seine Hausaufgaben gemacht, bevor ins Kino ging. Hatte das Buch schon gelesen, bevor die Besprechung führte. Sie hatten über das Projekt gesprochen, als der Chef sie fragte, wie es lief. In all of these sentences, every action was completed before another action, which makes the past perfect. Still, let's not forget that the verb sein can also be used as an auxiliary verb, but it must be used with verbs of movement or change of state. Ich war schon gegangen, als du ankamst. Du warst gekommen, bevor das Treffen begann. Wir waren schon gefahren, als der Sturm begann. Ihr wart nach Spanien geflogen, als wir euch anriefen. This is how sein is used in the past perfect, where an action is completed before another one. Yet more concepts need to be known. The use of the German past perfect is mainly common in reported speech. In indirect speech, or when reporting what someone else said, the past perfect describes an action that happened before the main event in the past. This construction is especially common in written German, like narratives or stories. For instance, the phrase, Sie sagt, ich habe das Buch gelesen, shows direct speech, but a reported speech would be, Sie sagte, sie habe das Buch gelesen. The past perfect is also common with schon and noch. We can use the adverbs to emphasize the timing of actions, like hatte schon gegessen, als ich ankam. Sie hatte noch nie einen Film in 3D gesehen. It's also possible to make complex sentences with multiple events using the past perfect to show the sequence of multiple past actions. The verb tense helps organize these events, like saying, nachdem das Buch gelesen hatte, aß zu Mittag und ging dann ins Kino. In the sentence, the past perfect establishes the order of actions, with the first action taking place before the others. Another function of the past perfect is in conditional sentences and if clauses. In conditional sentences that describe past hypothetical situations, we can use the past perfect to describe an unreal or hypothetical past action, like saying, wenn ich das gewusst hätte, wäre ich nicht gegangen. This structure is often used in the third conditional, describing an unreal past situation that didn't happen. If clauses will be explained in a future video. The last thing to know about the past perfect is the difference between the past and present perfects. In some cases, you might see the two tenses in the same sentence, describing actions at different times in the past, like Ich hatte das Buch schon gelesen, bevor ich den Film gesehen habe. Here, the past perfect, had read, describes an earlier event, but the present perfect, have watched, is used for the event that happened afterward. So, the key difference between the tenses is in the time. The present perfect is used for past actions with present relevance, having present tense conjugations of haben or sein. However, the past perfect is used for actions that happened before another past event, having past tense conjugations of haben or sein. This is the difference between the two, which is identical to English. Overall, this is how the past perfect fully works in German.